Before I begin my speech, I'm going to give you the title of the speech and a few of the words I'll be using during the speech. The title of this speech is Predicting the Future, and I'll be using expressions such as fortune teller, crystal ball, self-fulfilling prophecy. I'll also mention the name of one expert. He's a man called Amory Lovin. And I'll also be using the word dartboard. With that, I am now going to begin my speech. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a quote. It will take until the year 2033 for unemployment in Spain to fall to 6.8%. Now that's not a joke. This is a serious forecast which was contained in a serious economics article, and it was produced by a respected consultant. If you think about this seriously, it goes beyond absurd. It borders on the insane to make a forecast of this type. I mean, even if you have an unshakable belief in crystal balls and fortune tellers, you cannot possibly believe that anyone could have the vaguest idea of what the world will be like in the year 2033, let alone the unemployment situation in Spain or anywhere else. Yet we all take experts seriously. We all have a lot of faith in economic forecasts. Why? Well, I think it's to do with the desire to know the future. This is a desire which has been a constant feature of all civilizations and all cultures. Psychologically, I think we can explain this by our natural aversion to uncertainty. We want answers, and we want certainty, and so much so that we end up deceiving ourselves. We see patterns where there are none. We treat random results as if they were meaningful. Even worse, we have faith in so-called experts. We assume that they know more than we do and that they can somehow see into the future. Often, to an extent, this is the fault of the experts themselves. They're usually supremely confident in making their forecasts, which is understandable because they've got to justify somehow the trust that we place in them. But at this point in my presentation, let me cut to the chase. The message I want to make here today is very simple. Predictions by so-called experts are very common. Failed predictions by these experts are also very common. Experts who agree that their predictions have failed are exceedingly rare. So, how do they wriggle out of it when things go wrong? Let me describe a number of dodges they use. A typical dodge is to say, for example, well, I was almost right. Failing that, they usually fall back on the following excuse. Well, my forecast would have been correct if it hadn't been knocked off course by some unforeseen incident or event. And then you've got the so-called self-negating prophecy. What this means is that the forecaster will say, okay, well, as a result of my forecast, action was taken by the government, the authorities, and as a result of that action, the negative consequences I predicted did not happen. Another trick, of course, is to couch your prediction in very vague terms. This makes it very easy to backtrack or to alternate, and it makes it very difficult, ultimately, to state categorically whether the prediction has come true or not. And, of course, the master of fuzzy predictions was the famous Nostradamus, the well-known 16th century French bluffer. So, what about predictions which are bang on? And there are some of these. Do they prove the ability of some wise individuals to see into the future? Well, not really. The problem is that we, or rather more pertinently the media, tend naturally to focus on those predictions which seem to have been vindicated by events. And in doing so, they ignore the thousands of predictions which, of course, were completely wrong. One example of this is an expert called Amory Lovin, who in 1981 made the following prediction. He said, sometime between 1995 and 2005, the world would see the effective collapse of the Soviet Union from internal political stress. That sounds very impressive because he was right. But of course, we're conveniently ignoring the dozens of other predictions he made, which were totally wrong. And in my next speech, I will give you some more examples to prove my case. But that's all for today. Thank you for listening.